Right, before we go on, if Paula, if you remember at all, I mentioned before we started, could you just take a moment, Lila, and show us your shirt since I'm a big fan of the band that you have on your shirt? Just want you to know. Just had to
I
do that.
mean,
So just
come
thought I'd
on.
throw that in. I just had
We
to,
all need a
yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
ACDC in our life.
ACDC. There you go. All right. I just had to get that in before we go any further. All right. Now, Paula, there
Yes.
are a number of principles that you have on your page, Paula's principles
Hmm.
that you have. Can you highlight one of them to us right now that will open our discussion on divorce and attachment styles?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I do believe that everybody does have the power and the wherewithal to get through hard things, hard transitions, and heal themselves. So, I talk about embracing change, and that's one of the principles that I have. And basically, you have to identify, what it is that's keeping you stuck and getting you through this. And we talk about accountability and support and time being your friend and being self-compassionate and forgiveness. I mean, there's a slew of things, but to really, time is your best friend, and to really not be afraid to ask for help, because through this time you really do need the support. And all of us have been through it, and we've talked about it even on our own, that it would have been nice to have somebody like a divorce coach or some sort of coach to walk with us through it, and be that thinking partner, because there's so much to process, there's so much emotions, and there's the roller coaster, and just to really sort it out. And
When you're, if I may ask, then when you're dealing with your clients, what holds them back or keeps them in a position where they feel that they are stuck, Paula?
it always comes down to themselves. It's themselves that keep it stuck. They may say, well, it's because of this excuse or this excuse, but really and truly it's about them. They're stuck because they, themselves, this is their barrier. They have to get past themselves. And that's why we bring in, being brave and channeling and challenging yourself,
Hmm.
because you do have to step out of it, and you do have to you do have to not brave up, but you've got to be able to get yourself out of that comfort zone and be uncomfortable. So I always say, kind of get comfy with being uncomfy.
If that's the case, then I have to ask Flora. I have to ask you this: if a person is uncomfortable, as it were, in moving out of a given situation, what are some of the styles or attachment styles that we may need to understand more so we can understand ourselves better? Can you explain a little bit more attachment styles?
I can talk about attachment styles, but I want to talk about the stuck part
Okay.
first. What happens is our subconscious seeks the familiar. And whether the familiar is healthy or not, our subconscious knows how to deal with what's familiar. And that's why a lot of people get stuck and don't feel like they can get out of it. Because in their conscious minds, like when they come to a divorce coach or, a coach, they say to themselves, I want to get out
Yeah.
and get out of this situation.
Mhm.
But then their subconscious, which only knows how to deal with that situation because the unknown is so scary, right? The unknown is like such a frightening place. They choose to go back to that unhealthy situation or stay in that unhealthy
I
situation.
have a question then.
Yeah.
Even if the unfamiliar is probably the better course, they
Mhm.
still will go back. Excuse me. We can still go back
Yeah.
to what is technically not good for us.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why
Wow.
people stay,
Wow.
repeat behaviors and patterns from
Okay.
childhood. Like oftentimes, if somebody was abused in
Hmm.
childhood, they will end up in abusive relationships, not because they want that for themselves,
Hmm.
but because they are primed and imprinted with knowing how to deal within that.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
And that becomes their that becomes the soil in which they, in their mind, must live their life. They don't recognize that they can replant themselves somewhere else.
Yes, because again, they're also the nervous system is involved, right? So the nervous
Oh, okay.
system, again, knows how to deal, like is comfortable in that space, even though it's not good, it's not healthy.
Hmm.
It's comfortable in that space, and so they continuously will seek that out, because calm and ease and a lack of chaos is something they don't know, right? They don't know how to like live in peace. They know how to like, they need to activate their nervous system constantly.
So if they're accustomed to hearing yelling, they can meet somebody, and even they can be the calmest man or woman, but they're like, I got to instigate this because this is just too quiet.
100%.
That's
100%.
I want to say that's crazy, but it's crazy the environment that created that. They just happen to be, as it were, an offshoot of that. They can change it though, or in other words, they can transition to something else.
You can change, but there has to be a recognition and a need for change, right? That's why people often hit rock bottom or get into such, have to get to the worst part of their marriage before they step away from it. Nobody leaves when things are kind of not okay. Right?
No. So actually, that's funny. I was trying not to laugh, but that actually is funny. I'm not laughing at anybody that's going through that, but I'm saying that actually is kind of hilarious that they have to literally feel that this is not right anymore in their nervous system, as it were. It's kind of like a splitting takes place, right, Lila? Oh,
sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that, yes, there is a splitting that takes place. And it's usually, unfortunately, when something snaps, like they get either physically hit or something happens.
Like Flora said, yeah.
Like Flora said, right? But what happens is even then, I've dealt with certain people who've gone through this, they still don't believe that they deserve better. Right. So
that was good. I didn't see that coming. That's a whole nother.
Well, exactly, but that's because they're wired exactly what, like Flora was saying, was that they believe that this is what they deserve because that's what they've lived in, and that's the familiar, and that's that's what I deserve. My dad or mom did this to me, or my brother did this to me, then of course I deserve this. This is who I am, right? So it becomes it carries on in that way too. And I have few clients who are in that.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm sorry. No, go ahead, please. I was going to ask you about your clients, but go ahead.
No, and it's a codependency in a way. It's like, they become very codependent on that kind of relationship to kind of validate, this is me, this is what I deserve, and this is who I am. This is where I come from. I can't change that. They're very stoic in that kind of sense, right?
And it perpetuates itself, right?
Right. And it perpetuates in all relationships, not just their partner, but in every relationship. And I know I mentioned to you, this in the last message, and we can talk about this later on, but it also, it shows up in also the relationships with their professionals, their coaches, their therapists, whoever they have who are helping them through a process, it shows up for them then.
So even if they move away from that person, then, everybody can feel free to chime in, but I'm directing it toward Paula, but everybody can chime in. Let's piggyback on just that thought that Lila just highlighted. They get a coach. They've moved on from that other toxic person, whatever it may be. And now they got the coach. And now the coach becomes that other person for them. Or go ahead, Paula.
No, I was going to say the coach becomes, their thinking partner. And, don't forget, like, they could be coming out of a relationship where they had to put their life on hold, or their belief system goes out the door, or they don't really know who they are. They maybe never did know who they are. And so what's great about a coach is that we can identify these strengths in people, like in our coachees, and we see them, and all of a sudden they're like, what, that's a strength? I didn't know I had that. And you highlight, and all of a sudden, they're like, wow, I can do this. And they're starting to feel a little bit more confident just because we're recognizing some of the, the phases and some of the things that they've held on to for so long or have been through, and really highlighting this journey. Like, you've held it on for so long, you've been such an incredible support system for your kids, and really helping them identify, where they're stuck and how to kind of get back to their belief system. Cause that's that's kind of underneath it all. It gets very, very muted. Sometimes they don't really know, like, what am I good at? Do I even have friends? Am I, what's my purpose? It all just gets kind of diluted.
Their self-esteem is very low. They're very hard to even take on compliments, whatever is told to them. Anything.
Why is that?
Because they've been in this cycle for so long that they told themselves that they deserve the other part of it. And, you know, that is their familiar place. It's just like Flora was saying, it is an easy place to be in, an easier place. It's very uncomfortable to receive good and receive compliments or receive some accolades or whatever it is, if you're not used to it, if that's not what has happened in your life. It's unfamiliar, you know. We all, to a certain degree, are very flippant.
Oh, of course,
right? I mean, I don't know how many times somebody will give me a compliment, like, you know, I'm not even whatever. Like, you know, it doesn't even resonate because we're kind of uncomfortable receiving it. We're told God knows how many times no in our lives growing up, you know, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, no, you shouldn't do this. I mean, constantly that alone, plus, you know, all the things that we're told we're bad at. You know, and so by default, it's just, then on top of growing up with a difficult situation, very hard, you know, to differentiate that.
And all of the insecure attachment styles, underneath all of their core wounds, right? They each have like slightly different core wounds, but underneath it all, there's a lack of self-worth.
Right.
And there's a different, each attachment style has a different expression of how they act as a result of that. But underneath it all, there's really a low self-worth. So whether somebody is pushing away love because they have a low self-worth, or whether somebody is really desperate and needy about it, it still all comes back to a lack of self-worth and trust in themselves. And that's why getting divorced is so scary, right? Because whatever the situation was, bad or good, there's like some sort of stability that you have.
Yes.
And then going into divorce, it's like, there's no more stability.
No.
And I don't trust myself. And I don't believe I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, how am I going to survive?
Yeah. And I love what you say, you know, about that stability, because you're disrupting now, like you could have a family and the kids, and it's all like, it becomes like, this is a failure. This is, you know, this is like on me, and we couldn't make it work. And then that self, you know, that inner critic, and it just, it's like a cycle, and you can't get out. Like, you feel trapped. You really do feel trapped. And that's why people go into depression, into dark holes, and into this victim kind of, you know, mode. And so a coach can always help to, you know, unleash some of those emotions and just say, hey, like, it's okay. It's normal that you're going through this. You're not alone. You know, this, you kind of normalize it for them, right?
What are some of the what are some of the patterns and behaviors that show that a person hasn't unleashed those feelings and emotions yet? I stepped on that a little bit there. Lila, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, and it kind of, that won't maybe answer your question 100%, but
no, go ahead.
What I do see with them, with a lot of clients, is that, well, when they are stuck, right, and they're in there, they're also, the self-worth issue is that they don't trust themselves to make any decisions. And if you don't trust yourself to make any decisions, that's where they're abdicating a lot of their decision making to either their coach, to other people, friends, family, all of that. And trusting that voice and that inner self is that's the journey, right? That's the journey of a coach, also to help them understand that. And it's an incremental process. This is not like all of a sudden from one day to next week, you're like, oh, I trust me. I can make all the decisions I want, you know, and it goes back and forth. So they're on a roll sometimes, and they go right back into, I can't do this, I can't make this. They bury their heads in the sand. Oftentimes I'll get emails forwarded to me before they even read it, because they can't even look at the emails. They're scared to look at the emails. There's a lot of fear that's driving them in this.
That was me 100%. And more recently than that.
Right. And it makes sense, right? Because obviously you can read somebody else's because you're not attached to it. But I mean, obviously, you know, you don't know what you're going to expect, and you're not in this frame of mind to trust how you're going to react. And that's the hardest bit. So I do say it's actually important that you have somebody that you can trust, that is there for you, to be there for you when you have to read those emails. Be there for you if you have to be with your ex in a room. Be there for you when you have to have a conversation with them. All those things, until you can get it doesn't happen overnight, right? Until you
Right,
get
right.
proud. I mean, I have a client now that I've been working with for a year now, and I guarantee she sends me her email she's going to send to her ex, and they're perfect.
Yeah.
She's like, I got this.
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
so good. I can get like, literally
That's
now.
good. That's
She's
good
like,
to
I'm
hear.
going to try not to send it to you. I was like, good, you know, like that's what I want, because you're like, exactly, you feel she doesn't scare her anymore, right?
I
Oh,
think
wait, no, I'm sorry. She doesn't scare her anymore. Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead, please.
I think you're making a really good point that, when you're in the moment and when you're, when it's so difficult, you don't see that you'll get past it. You don't see the growth that's going to happen as a result of it. You don't see, you just think like, this is the end, and how am I going to live, and what am I going to do, and how am I going to put one foot in front of the other? But really what the important thing is putting one foot in front of the other, and also recognizing, patterns, trauma, and whatever it is that kept you in that situation for longer than you needed to be there. And eventually you do get to that point where you can do it on your own,
And another point is also just to celebrate those small wins, and they get bigger and bigger, but the small wins are, people, clients are like, wait, that's a win. And I'm like, well, listen, you made the choice, or you whatever you did, you made the phone call, or you wrote the letter, and those are wins that need to be celebrated. And as you're building your goals and you're starting to see, your path, those small wins are so, important. We have clients that come in and go, fix me. I want this to go away. I don't want to go through the process. I just want it over. But the process is those small wins. And if you miss them, you are going to miss, you're going to miss the progress, and you're going to really, the journey's kind of, it's not the same. You have to go through those stages. It hurts, but you've got to go through it.
You mentioned progress. Now, progress is it's something people want. Mm-hmm. We all want to feel it, let alone see it. But what would progress be in your minds, ladies? You all come from different aspects of what you do to help others. What do you consider progress for a person in their dating, in their relationships, in their attachment styles? Flora, what do you consider progress?
I think every time you don't react to your natural nervous system, like, reaction.
Okay.
So, for example, an anxious person will go into their fight or flight mode, right? If somebody threatens to leave them, right? So they'll go into anxiety, right? They'll go into fight or flight. They won't know what to do. And the first thing you want to do is fix the problem. And you want to call, you want to beg, you want to, do something to make that person stay. Yeah. You want to people please, right? There are all these behaviors that come along with anxious attachment. And what I ask clients to do is to sit in the discomfort of not doing anything. Mm-hmm. And
oh no, wait, time out. Flora.
What did
that
you?
Is so good. No, time out. They have to sit what, please?
Sit in the discomfort of not doing anything.
Pause. That's like I should just put that somewhere, because when people write me and what they want to see on the show, that should be what I should say to them, because they want Paula, what you said earlier, they want to just fix it, make it go away.
Make it go away. Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, you ladies do this for a living. You know what you're doing. That's like, I want to tell them, but that's the perfect way to say it. They have to sit in. Why is that essential?
Because when you are used to that reaction and control, essentially you're trying to control the outcome, right? You want you want to fix the problem. You want to control the outcome, and you need to do what is unnatural for you to see what happens without you controlling it. If somebody wants to leave you, they're gonna leave you, whether you're lying on the floor begging and crying, or
buy 5 billion roses, or cook them the best meal. It doesn't matter if they're going. It doesn't matter,
right? And so, what are you doing to yourself then? How are you demeaning yourself when you're trying to pull somebody in that doesn't want to be there? Surrendering, releasing that control, like letting that play out, teaches you so much about yourself. And then just the new management of your nervous system, right? Just like kind of not doing anything for the first time teaches you so much in that moment, that you also become empowered with, oh my God, I sat through this. I lived through this, I didn't die.
I didn't have to lift a finger or get a forklift to move things around.
Yeah.
And I'm still okay.
Right. And it was really uncomfortable and it was really hard, but okay, I'm okay. And that becomes, like Paul was saying, like the building block to the little win. And then you build on to the next win. Maybe next time you have a little bit more space to deal with that, I'm
going to just touch upon what Flora's saying, is that pause, that real, like I say, the pause button. That is so important for reflection, because I ask my clients what do you feel like in that space? Like, what do you feel like when you're really doing
Great question.
Because
great question.
That reflection is really important, because you don't know, you can't measure how you're doing if you're not, noticing how you're feeling in that pause or that moment of doing nothing. So really, really, really important in growth and change, for sure.
When a person sits with that, everybody comfortably still hear me? I hope I didn't lose everybody.
Yeah.
Got me. Okay. So when the person sits with that, then it passes, then it goes away. But they still need to transition to something or somewhere. Lila, help.
No, it's not that it doesn't always go away. I think it's just giving it a space. You need to give a space. You have to give whatever is triggering you, right?
Yeah.
You need to put space between you and that trigger, and then really understand what it is about that ever. Is that an email? Is it something someone said? Is it, just a lawyer letter that you haven't even read yet, but it's totally triggering. So, you have to start to get to know you. So I'd say progress and everything, all of what everybody has said, 100%. And it's exactly that. It's stop button, pull back, give yourself that space. I like to work very visually with people because I'm a visual person. Yeah. And sometimes I say, it's like, you have to almost like you're, I don't know, driving a plane or, piloting a plane or something, like you're just like training backwards. Like, it's like you have to make sure you're physically going backwards, and you're like, this is, I've got to put space in between this, right? Me and this trigger, and just talk to yourself a little bit about that, talking to yourself about that. And then maybe not talking at all about anything. Right. Sometimes I'm like, just look around. Is there a distraction? Maybe put on music. Maybe like some, it's not everybody can go into meditative straight state.
No, of course. Yeah. That's not for everybody.
Put on a song that's going to distract you, listen to something.
Get a trampoline, get a hula hoop.
Like I do. It definitely helps. A hula hoop.
I had to say that about you. Okay.
But I like that, because, it's like, I look at it as like when you're, like you said, you're moving back. It's like making decisions. Sometimes you want to get it all figured out, and you're like, I want to get this done, and I need to make decisions. Yeah. But really, you don't have to figure it out all at once. And parking those decisions, first of all, you're not clear. You need to focus. You need to reflect and have some sort of vision, some sort of clarity to be able to make those decisions and come back to it. But you know what? A lot of people aren't very, like, I know myself, I was so impatient. It's hard to, when you're in it, it's hard to be patient. But again, it really pays off to just park it and come back to it. And
that's why progress, that's the key indicator of progress, right? Like when you know it's not going to happen right away. It might be a hot second that you pause, but at least you took a deep breath, right? You're like, okay. Maybe it starts with a deep breath, and then it goes, it gets you start distancing yourself a lot, more. Eventually, it becomes so distant that you're like, you know what? When I get to it, I get to it. This is not a big deal. When I'm ready for it, when I'm, you kind of know yourself and how to prepare yourself for whatever it is.
Okay, so I have to ask this then. Paula didn't see this coming, but I have to ask you. My dear friend, what made you impatient before you learned how to park?
Me? What made me impatient?
Yes. No, not now, because you're one of the most patient people who knows how to buy shoes. But overall, back in the day, when you were 18, 10 years ago, what made you impatient? So somebody can kind of relate to what you're saying there about being impatient.
You know what? It was just like, first of all, I had this, first of all, I got married young and I got divorced young. So I had this picture in my head of this intact, perfect family, 2 kids, blah, blah, blah. And he was gorgeous, by the way, my first husband. I hope he's not watching.
I really thought you were going to say your kids were gorgeous. You got a son that's going to get married soon, and you went there. You went totally where I didn't think you were going to go. Okay, all right.
They're cute, but I mean, he was drop dead gorgeous. But okay. So I had this vision, and
glad to see you're over that. But go ahead.
Looks fake.
Write that down. That attachment style. Okay. She's attached to good looking.
Obviously.
Internally first, but it's you have this picture of this intact family, and then all of a sudden it's your fairy tale ending sort of is just, it's over. And you think like, how am I going to go out there and like pretend, and how am I going to act, and like, what am I, so I wanted it to go away very quickly. I didn't want to go out there and have to explain, oh, I'm fine. And then I remember my lawyer actually was saying, what the hell? Like, who cares what people think? You go out there and be your best. You hold your head up high. And when someone asks you how you're doing, you just say, I'm dealing. And be very transparent, because I am a very open person. And that's the way I coped. I was like, things are shitty. Things are oh, am I allowed to say that?
Are you trying to get me kicked off? No. That's all right. And next year I'll have a button just for you. It'll be Paula right here on my console. My finger will be right there any moment, just waiting for you. Go ahead. You're doing fine.
As soon as I claimed back, like, not my power, but my truths, and the bigger picture of just in my belief system, and knowing that like it wasn't me, like I didn't break up this marriage on my own, and I took it back. I could go out there and be very transparent, very honest, very open, and very true to myself, which I think is the most important thing, being true to yourself. And when you're true to yourself, things just kind of evolve. And I just kind of chilled and said, listen, it's going to however it's going to be, we're still going to have an intact family. We're just not going to live together. And I just kind of took a deep breath, but I'm still impatient.
I'm not surprised. Right now, there are a number of things that, Paula, you could bring to our attention. We could talk about. We have gone 36 minutes and counting. I wanted this show to be with the three of you on this day, a Friday. As I said to my previous guest, I love my Fridays because it's when I can be goofy. But I wanted this subject, both of them, divorce and attachment styles, to come together on this day, because it's not always a happy day for some people on a Friday. If they are going through divorce or separation, child custody swaps, a number of things come into play. They end up having the entire weekend maybe by themselves because their children are gone. Let's address that group of individuals. Predominantly, a lot of guys write me, but the majority of people that watch the show are female. Let's address that female audience. The woman who may be alone and is trying to understand attachment styles, what that means. That's a lot of conversation. A lot of people talk about it. I only trust Flora with it. I know that it has disturbed some people who have heard me say that talk about it and want to be on the show or have been on the show. But I trust you on that subject. I truly love talking to Lila about splitting and transition. And Paula, you take the cake when it comes to designing a person's life the way you have done many times as a designer. But when it comes to attachment styles, Flora, just a little bit, what are the types of attachment styles, and how can a person kind of recognize which one, or are they leaning toward one, moving from one from the other? Go ahead.
So your attachment style is based on how you learned to attach to your caretakers when you were really a baby, and that really sets in before the age of 3. Your primary attachment will set in. However, so why I say that is to say that it's in your nervous system. Before the age of 3, you don't have a conscious mind. Your conscious mind isn't really online yet, right? It only starts to come online when you are learning language. And so depending on how your parents treated you, and it's never to say that anybody's parents were particularly bad, but a lot of times our parents didn't know what they were supposed to do. Like, so for example, if your parents did the cry it out method with you, which meant that, they would just leave you in the room and let you cry yourself to sleep for 5 hours, and just wait for you to self-soothe, they called it. Then you just distracted me. Then
didn't mean to distract you there. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Then
I got too many toys over here. Go ahead. You're saying
you would end up with a particular attachment style. So the attachment styles there's four. There's secure, which means that your parents properly attuned to you. They took proper emotional care of you. They showed you how to deal with your emotions. They supported your emotions, happy, sad, angry, and then they showed you how to resolve them properly, right? If you and then you grow up as an adult who knows how to deal with their emotions and who knows how to communicate their emotions, is easy to say, I love you, and is easy to say this isn't working, and has, knows how to set boundaries and knows how to deal with their emotions, because they stay in their ventral vagal parasympathetic nervous system, right?
Okay.
Yes, parasympathetic. I always have to check myself on that.
It's Friday. It's Friday. It's okay. Go ahead.
I think that's right. And then the anxious person had a situation in childhood where there was inconsistency in the emotional care, which means that sometimes the parents were available to take proper emotional care of them, and sometimes they weren't for one reason or another. I have a primary anxious attachment style. My family, my parents were immigrants, so they worked all the time. So I was constantly passed around to grandparents, daycares, and whatnot. And so when they were around, wonderful, but then they would leave. And what that does to the child is it causes you to form like a desperation and a fear of abandonment, because your parents are constantly leaving, and you never know when they're coming back. So you translate that into adult relationships. And, when you have strong feelings for somebody, you are deathly afraid that they're going to leave. You associate love with abandonment, because every time your, parents were there, they also, you knew they were going to be going at any moment,
Right.
And so you become clingy, you become needy, you become, passive aggressive, you become maybe people pleasing, right? As a result, as an adult. And then the avoidant attachment style happens when the parents were more neglectful, and the child learned very early on that their parents would not support them emotionally. So they shut down their own emotional centers.
Wow.
And they go through life kind of validating through purpose, through work, through games, through things, but not through other people. And so they are very shut down when it comes to real intimacy as adults. And, these are the types that don't really get very deep in relationship. They can get married and they can, but when they're triggered, they pull away. And they need space, and they don't deal very well.
What are they triggered by then?
They're triggered by somebody really wanting to get intimate with them, to get close to them, to see them.
Wow. So
they can be in the vicinity of people, but if you want more than they're willing to give, they pull away. They need space. They need time. They
literally physically they pull away, beside just emotionally.
Yes. Yeah. Both. I mean, either or and both kind of thing. Yeah. But it will become it becomes very apparent, right? That either you are that person, or you're married to that person, or you're with that person, And then the fearful-avoidant attachment style is somebody who was actually, like, more than likely, there was a lot of either chaos or abuse, like real physical, mental, sexual abuse in the house. And they really want love, but they don't, they also fear it. So you get this hot and cold person that really, like, wants relationship. But then when they get the relationship, they pull away because they're also afraid of it, because love to them also meant pain, right? Or something to be afraid of. And so they go back and forth between actually anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. So they kind of represent both attachment styles.
With this kind of information just that you just laid out for us, Paula, Lila, how do you coach? I mean, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. I don't know any other way than the ghetto way I talk, but how do you coach anyone with these attachment styles that could be coming at you at different angles and different times? How do you transition someone like you do? Lila, Paula, how do you help a person design their life with this information? Thank you, Flora, for that you highlighted these.
Yeah.
What do you do, ladies?
Well, Flora, you just like completely summed up my childhood.
I would throw my hands up. I would throw my hands up and go like, "Hey, I wish you the best. I wish you the best." Hey.
No, it's small steps, because what she just went over was like some,
Wow.
Once you get to know somebody and there's depth there, you've got to that's deep, and obviously that doesn't come out in a coaching session right away. It's a deep, longer relationship, but you work on it very slowly, and you try to, help that person obviously address what they're, what they want, but also to gain back who they are in their belief system, because it's true, those attachment styles. I mean, you summed up that anxiety. Like, my parents were always on the opposite pages. Dad said, "Don't worry about what Mom said." Mom says, "Don't worry about what Dad said." It made us feel very insecure. We had to. I was the eldest. I had a key around my neck. I had to like drive my kids. My
They were like your kids, though. Right?
I was like a parent at the age of 13.
Wow.
And I had a lot of responsibility. And I mean, when, just triggering that, it's in itself is that no wonder, like, I got married young and I have a million kids and like I want to do and fix and everything, because that attachment of just pleasing and, being the, responsible and having it all figured out. In the last 5 years, I just have let go of that attachment, literally 5 years ago, really. So it lasted.
You didn't get to play. You didn't get to be a kid.
I know. I'm like super grown up.
That's why you got so many shoes.
That's why I'm mature now.
She's playing now.
Yeah, good for you. Hey, good for you.
We'll keep you younger.
It takes a long time to really identify and then to detach from those attachments. And it's, like I said, it was only about 5 years ago that I made those, that separation. And trust me, it was the best thing I ever did. Wow. But I didn't. I had to be ready for it, right?
Yeah.
There's 100%, like, people have to be ready for it, but there's just a lot that people are going through in itself when you're going through a divorce, right? So there's the logistics, and in many cases, if you have children, you're working out a lot of things that you are very fearful of. So there's a part of relationship, yourself, the relationship with yourself, everything you talked about earlier, the trusting, all of this stuff that is really hard. So we move them through certain things, but it doesn't mean that you don't go back to revisiting certain things in your and that, coaching isn't therapy, right? We're forward thinking, we're not past thinking. And so we can only do so much with that, and I think that my biggest job is to really capture everything everyone's saying, and say it back to them in a way that they are hearing it. It's a total reflection. It's a mirror technique, which is super important in coaching, because people don't even realize what they're saying, right? They're so used to saying it, and they say it so many times. They're stuck in that story, like we talked about earlier, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, you just said this about yourself. So this is what you believe, or this is what you think you said about this. Is this what you believe? Like kind of probe them and question them in a soft way that helps them understand, like, oh my God, did I really say that? You're saying that a lot. Like, I've heard you say this many times, 5 times about yours, right?
And it's kind of like, I just met you and you said it like 15 times. What have you been doing before I ever met you? That's like 200 times you've been beating yourself up.
Exactly. And it adds up, and it's changing their narrative. It's changing that dialogue that they have, right? It's making sure it's helping them change it. I can't change it for anybody, but I can help them change it to see, hey, this is the kind of a better path. This is a better thing to say about yourself, number one. Number two, and probably what are you gaining about worrying about all of that and being in fear? And, these are the things that we can do. I mean, I'm not, obviously, there's only so much I know and I can talk and speak to about attachments. That's not my, I think people could get help during that. Go elsewhere.
Of course. Yeah.
Pamela, there she is. So she, that's. But I think with the coaching, getting people through and moving them towards something, it's like moving them towards above and beyond. Like, really, where do you want to go with this relationship, or with yourself? Where do you want to go in your life? Your relationships with your children.
Mm-hmm.
You're so busy worried about the nuances of a co-parenting plan of what's going to happen that you're not even parenting your kid when you have them.
In the moment, the child is getting lost in all of the negotiations.
Right. Yeah. Like, you don't even realize that because you're so worried and anxious about this. I'm like, whoa, what about this?
And Lila, you touched upon a point too about being a coach is being a really good listener and hearing their language and repeating their language and what they're saying, because their attachments may show up, and it's not an assumption, but it shows up and you recognize it because you're sitting there and you're listening. But when they say it over and over again and you repeat it, and they're like, wow, you know what? And it comes up all the time. Like, I've heard it a few times, what does it mean? Like, tell me more. What's important about this? And so, it's really tuning into what they're saying.
If someone watches this back, and we just had Flora, for my intellect and the way I absorb and learn things, you explain the attachment style at my speed that I can appreciate it, and you did it again in a beautiful way.
If someone watches, do it very fast. Not much more to it, but
I think it was great.
I know. Listen, what you did was sufficient for the time, and it was great. But right now, somebody watches this back, and they're hearing Paula, yourself, Flora, and Lila talk about this discussion of divorce and attachment styles. They may have never looked at it this way. They may not feel that they're good enough. Get ready for it. Here it comes. So since that's the case, I'm going to put this up on the screen, but I want your input on when someone feels that they are not enough and they don't know when they are enough or not enough. They're just confused because of the divorce, because of the separation, because of the parenting plan they have to come up with. I love the way you said it, Lila, the logistics and stuff that they got to start figuring out. They live over here. That's going to take so much time. Does the kid have this? All of these things start to come into play. Are you going to meet me halfway? Or we're going to, all that kind of stuff.
Guilt.
Who's buying a plane ticket? Yes, the guilt, the shame, a number of things. Paula touched on that, right? Paula, you said that even in your own experience, feeling that something could be a failure. All of these things are happening. They don't feel they're enough. How can a person begin to know? Thank you, Flora, for this. I snatched this from your page. How will they know that they are enough?
I mean, I know the answer.
That was just like classroom. I got the answer.
I actually want me to say it.
Anybody can go, but how can a person know that they are enough? Flora, you get first dibs.
Well, I mean, I wrote it. The next slide, I don't know if you have it, basically says if you woke up today, you're enough.
Yeah. But not everyone believes that, right?
Everyone believes it.
Not everybody believes in themselves, and they get knocked down, and they get, they just get so down on themselves, and then their inner critic is telling them, that I'm not good enough, and I can't amount to this, and I can't do this. And so it's about changing the narrative. It's about changing that inner critic to talk to yourself nicer and to learn to talk to yourself nicer. And again, that's where those small wins come in, to recognize that you're doing the best that you can. This is not like an overnight success. And, you're going to get there in your own time. There's no running race. You just have to really accept this challenge and embrace it, and start to learn how to talk to yourself, in a nicer way, because you're going to be the one to start this going. Nobody's going to do it for you, right? You have to begin to change that narrative.
Yeah. And the way that sorry, I was getting some feedback. The way that I coach people is to face their trauma that got them to where they are, right? But I say that only to say that within the moment that trauma is happening, you can also face it then and there, And you don't have to run away from a painful situation. You don't have to shut down because something is scary, right? The more that you face what is happening, the more you build up your confidence, and your subconscious starts to believe that you can move through difficult things. So if all you want to do is shut down and eat yourself, to sleep, or drink yourself to sleep, or, just take on some other kind of negative behavior, the further down that path you go. And that's including, like you guys have been saying, actually talking to yourself in a negative way. Like the more you talk about yourself in a negative way, the more you put yourself down, the worse you're going to feel about yourself, So it really is, we live in the society where it's like quick return, everything's supposed to happen quickly. And the real happiness and the real growth is in the small steps every day, all the time, and the consistency of that.
Yeah, I think also that in just existing is enough. It is, but it's very hard for people because we have so many levels to look up to, in the sense of like, oh, we don't have this, and we haven't, for example, you don't have kids at the age of 30. Oh my God, your clock is ticking. You have to have this. You have to be married. You have to, like all these things that the society has driven us to believe that we aren't enough, or we don't have a high paying job at that time we're 35, and we're not making six figures when we're this. And so it's really tough. And that I always say, it's like, but these are all falsities in life. It doesn't actually really matter, because anything can happen, right? Just living by loving, by having, loving yourself, living here, loving other people loving you. I mean, that's really all that counts in the end of the day. And I know that it's not easy, because sometimes of course you need a job. Of course you need to make money. Of course you have to do all those things. Mm-hmm. But relationships, right? Working on that part, everything else starts to shift. And you start working on that, right?
Yeah.
And letting go of what the society tells us is.
Well, that's it. And I also like what you said about going through hard things. Like sometimes the most incredible moments of confidence and momentum are when you do face those hardships and you get through them, and you're like, wow, you know what? Look how far you've come, and look what you're doing, and look what you're enduring, and you're doing this. Like you actually can do hard things. And that's the embrace, like that's the empowerment part, that you're like, yeah, like I can do this. I'm actually doing this. And that's the momentum to keep you going. And it gives you that confidence. So
what about this? If you look at the screen, tell me your thoughts about this. When you feel the need to grip, let go. How does that apply with each one of you in your coaching styles in helping people to move forward?
It's what we were talking about earlier too. It's like when you're instead of holding on to an outcome and something has to happen right away, you put the pause button on and you're like, let go. Pull back.
Not easy though, right? Somebody's going to tell you, maybe your client, right? They tell you that it's not. What do you say in return to someone that says it? Well, that's easy for you to say.
It's not. I've never had anybody actually say that to me,
cool.
But I think it also depends on the timing of when you're receptible to hear it, right? I mean, it's not like the first time that they're sitting there angry about a reaction they had or whatever they've done or what they're sharing with you that you tell them that. It's the process of getting to that point. Like I say, it's one breath. Take a breath. Take a hot minute. I always use that phrase. I'm like, that hot minute that you would need.
I'm sorry, you need to make that a shirt. That would be so cool. A hot minute with split coaching, right?
A hot minute, right?
I like
because
that.
It is true, right? And if you can have that little mantra in your head when things happen, that's where you start, right? That's it's like meditation. I mean, I could do it for 2 minutes when I started doing it. Now I'm up to 15, but still, it's. And this is years after. So you can't expect to have that ability to do that right away, or also recognize when you need it. But it's when you take that hot minute, you start really recognizing how you're feeling in that moment and where is that coming from. And then you start adding those layers. Oh, I get this. I've been here before. I felt this before. I know this feeling. It's coming from here. And then eventually you get to have that space to evaluate.
Yeah.
What it really is, and if it's actually truthful. Like what you're feeling might not actually be what's coming at you.
You're just dropping bombs, man. What's up with you three ladies, man? I can't. You have no me. I have so many moments I want to go time out, but I can't because it's like you guys are. Is what you're saying is so awesome. By the way, Sylvia Jacobs was here or is still here, but a hello to you and anybody else that's watching this. Feel free to enjoy this back. We have gone 58 minutes in talking about divorce and attachment styles. This is the first of 3. When these ladies are able to be available to come and do number 2 and 3, we will do so in 2022. This, when you feel the need to grip, let go, that Lila was just talking about, that was contributed unwittingly and unknowingly by Flora. I think this is yours also. I have a number of these to put up, but this is not going to happen because we've already gone an hour, and I got some from each one of you, but I'm going to save them for the other shows. But I wanted to get this one in. Anybody wanted to touch on this one before I show the last slide, and then we're going to, of course, take some last thoughts before we go.
I'm just going to touch upon it about, like, it reminds me of like a monkey brain, like we all want control. And, we all want to be able to control every little piece of this journey, and you can't. Like you can't actually. When you lose control and you let go of it and you trust the process and trust yourself through it, that's when the magic happens. But it does take some practice and time and trust. You have to trust yourself that it's going to work out, and that if you make a mistake, that's the other thing. You make a mistake, that's part of it. You've got to make mistakes. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. Flora, you probably have never seen that posting before for quite a while, or ever. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
You want me to comment on the post?
You could do whatever you like. I'm sitting with 3 queens. I'm just the joker in the room. Go ahead.
I mean, to be honest, that post actually came in my horoscope.
Oh.
Look at you.
So
you know what? She is so transparent. She can't even take credit for a post.
No, it's not even that. It was just so poignant. You know what I mean? It was such. It came at a poignant moment for me too, because, like Paula said, we're constantly trying to control everything. And I also got married young, and I also wanted the house and the kids and the everything like the American dream is supposed to be. And that was all me trying to control the outcome of my existence, and it took a lot. It wasn't easy. There was nothing easy about it. I'm divorced. I have 2 kids, but I've never been happier within myself. I've never trusted myself more than when I was able to really let go and surrender.
It's another timeout I want to give right then and there. That's such a great statement. You've never trusted yourself more. And I apologize for stepping on you saying that, but I have to ask this question. Why do you feel you trust yourself more? What would be the recipe prescription that you would pass on to younger women or other women that are hearing you say that? Now, I know it could be long, but just give us the quick recipe that you could throw out there.
I wouldn't give them my recipe, because what I have learned about myself is that I'm an experiential learner.
You experiment. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I got to do it all. I got to really jump into the fire in order to really know that it's hot. I can't just put my finger in. I'm not.
Nobody can just tell you. You're like, no, I want to check that out.
Yeah. I really got to see. So, I've been to the place where I've lost everything, where all the horror, all the things that I didn't want to happen, I had to face that reality and face that fear. And I had to rebuild myself from scratch. And that's why, we keep saying it's the process, it's the little wins. It was every little tiny thing that I did to rebuild myself that has brought me to this place today, and it's taken a long time, and it's forever. It's going to go on forever. I know that now too, and I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm open to the unknown, and sometimes it's scary. I mean, scary. Life isn't perfect. Still, stuff comes up all the time. That we have to deal with. That I have to deal with, and so. But I know, I've come through so much, and I know that I can trust myself to get through more. And whatever comes, sorry, I do want to say
go ahead.
Whatever comes will be what I need.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, I'm here with three women. There's so much I want to say to you, but we've really gone an hour, and I don't want to hold you all this time. You need to get back to your daughter, my AC/DC fan over there, and Flora, you did such a great job in all your show prep while we were sitting here waiting for you. Everything looks fantastic. That's an inside joke. Nobody's gonna know what that means, but
No
us.
one needs to know.
No, that's right. That's my sister used to say that all the time. You don't need to tell anybody that. He's coming to pick me up. You don't tell him that part. Okay, so and Paula, thank you so much for kindly being a host to what we're doing here. But part 2 and 3, I'm gonna unleash you ladies to have less of me talking. But I wanted the YouTube audience to get a chance to meet you. But I'm about to do something here. Surprise, surprise. You should all be accustomed to that dealing with me. I'm going to put something up on the screen that I want you to address. All of the shows that I have done and episodes with the support and many times the efforts of my daughters that behind the scenes, we get people that want to know about what I'm about to put up. We're talking about divorce right now, essentially, attachment styles and how they come into play. Those are the aspects we're dealing with. But a lot of times people just want it to be what Paula said. They want it to be done. They want it to be over with. They want to not be experimental and see how they can go through life and try to see how tough they are. They want it over, and they have no idea how to do that. So therefore, this is one of the questions that I get often put to me here. And let me move over here and bring it up to you. Let me do this here. Excuse me just a second. Do that. And let's take a look at it. Let's see. Pull this up here.
Okay. Sorry. God.
Everybody see that there?
I'm sorry. Okay. Yes.
You okay there? Did they giving you a hard time over there? You need it by your daughters, your children?
No. Oh my God. No. I don't know what's happening. I'm really sorry. I don't know how to turn this off.
Oh, you can hear. Oh, you get feedback.
Oh no, are you guys not hearing it? I'm getting a phone call. Oh, I thought you could hear
you're
it
good.
too. I'm apologizing.
Well, technically I can hear, but I don't. It doesn't bother me if everybody hears it back. I do things on purpose so we look low budget. Kind of like a crooked picture. All that kind of stuff like that. Okay, so you're not always going to get closure. We're talking about divorce predominantly. That is the case. Many people are experiencing that. All three of you are going to explain even more as we get into show number 2 and 3 when we put them on. You're not always going to get closure. It's hard for some people to recognize that if they felt they've been wrong, the injustice of the divorce and other aspects, the adultery and a number of other things that come into play, the financial abuse, the narcissistic traits and behaviors that come into play. Paula, please feel free to start us off, and then Lila, and then Flora. You're not always going to get closure.
No, you're not. You're not going to get closure. Sometimes you just never do. And it's about acceptance, and it's about forgiveness, and what one comes first. But first, it's about accepting who you are and being true to yourself and getting yourself really, really strong, and to be able to make clear decisions and just know who you are. And get back to your belief system, because again, we get lost in the shuffle. And once you are at your best, I always say, work on your best self, You can practice that forgiveness piece and forgiving yourself and forgiving, your ex, and then that acceptance piece. So it's a domino effect, but really and truly, you've got to get yourself to your best. You got to practice your best self and learn your strengths. And yeah, there's no drive-through divorces yet. We haven't figured that out yet.
Drive-through divorces. Lila, by the way, I just want you to know I love the dog. I don't know what happened there. My audience loves dogs. So
okay, well, I mean, I've got 2 of them, and I didn't want them to have like a whole a cappella going on in the background. I have a quote. That's my favorite quote that I always, and it doesn't make anybody feel much better, but it's fair is the F word in divorce, right? I'm sure you guys have read that many times. it's great, right? It's really, there's nothing fair around it, right? And it's not about getting, the last word or getting justice done or all of that. That's the journey is really with self, right? And it's for your family. And I think that's where, at least somebody who's working with coaches or people who are working with coaches, really that's where we're going to. This is not about winning. That's a lawyer's game, right? And even that, nobody wins, by the way.
I like that.
Nobody wins. Because you lose a lot of damn money, a lot of heartache. So
no one wins.
No one wins.
Everyone wins. That's great.
That was beautiful. Both of you, that was beautiful.
I love what you just said, that the journey is with self. And what happens when we're trying to get closure a lot of times is we're seeking somebody else to validate our experience. Mm-hmm. And it's not anybody's job to validate your experience.
Absolutely.
And so, this is why it's important to know that you can give closure to yourself, and that you should be able to give closure to yourself, and you shouldn't be looking for that validation of, but did you love me? And, whatever answers it is that you're seeking, it doesn't matter. When something is over, it's over. It's done. And,
When it becomes something that an individual can't seem to carry or bear, they may need a coach. They may need someone to help them maneuver through it. Mm-hmm. How can people get a hold of you, Lila, if they want to transition beyond the split? Mute it.
Sorry about
that. There's the dog. There's the dog that dog was in our show together.
Oh my
God. Wait a minute. That's not the same dog. Wait a minute.
Oh my God.
Where'd you get those
puppies
from?
This is my dog, and then this is my puppy.
Oh.
Okay.
What kind of dogs are they?
They're Pomeranians. Her name is
so
Nina,
cute.
after Nina Simone. And this girl, who's a menace, little one, is Zuma.
So cute.
Is what?
Man.
Zuma?
Zula.
Oh my goodness. I know Nina. I was telling you about the dog barking. Didn't bother me. The dog was in one of our other shows, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm jealous. I got to catch Sherlock here, but
those dogs,
he's asleep.
Those dogs get through divorces, huh? Those dogs.
They're honestly, it's just heaven having them. I mean, it's hard work having dogs, but I can tell you, it was the biggest gift. I got it, Nina, for my daughter, and I will say, it's something to always think about. An animal, and especially a dog, just
good point.
Really good for kids if you can and you're able. I mean, obviously they're really little because I don't have that massive big yard and all that, So if it's doable, I would definitely do it, especially for kids. She just calms my daughter down.
Unconditional.
So going back, I am on IG as the Split Coach. My website is thesplitcoach.com. I also I'm the founder of Split FYI, which is a community portal that also helps people get through divorce and separations and puts them in touch with amazing coaches as well. And you can check me out on both of those. Okay. The best way. I do have a program starting in January.
Yay.
I do a week group program, and I've done about 3 so far, and they've been super successful and amazing. And actually, they end up staying also really close with one another, which is great. Cool. So usually up to 6 people, so that's enough time to talk. It starts on Monday, January 24th.
There we go.
So if anybody wants to join that.
Yes, and I'm just going to say this now. I should have told you ladies this way ahead of time. Feel free to give me whatever information or a video you can make describing what you do in your programs, because we have decided that on our YouTube channel we will have a playlist just for recovery programs. So people can find it on our page. So we, of course, always prefer that people have a video describing, like what you just did. Maybe I'll have to just cut this out. No, a prepared video that they could send to us, and we'll post it and keep it up. as well as make it a part of our playlist of coaches that they can get a hold of that have done shows with us. So I just keep that in mind. I should have told you that. I could have
Thank you,
said it
Paxton.
later, but I'm telling you now. We've gone an hour and 13 minutes. That was really good. Paula, your turn, and then Flora, when it comes to what you can do to help someone to navigate their divorce.
So speaking of playlist, you should, because your music is awesome. You need, and people always say like, oh my God, well, special me, where do you get all that music? You should put a playlist together of all the music that you, honestly,
You're so sweet.
It's gotta be.
It's are you there? Did I lose you? You still there?
I'm here.
Okay.
But it's funny, like a lull, like, yeah. Didn't you
I don't know what that happened. But hey, you know, I have to tell you this. I said it, I think I said it earlier, right? It's really the music I choose. It literally is for that person. It is very personal for me. But thank you for saying that. I've heard that said before. I don't know if I'd ever do a playlist because it's now everybody's finding this out. It's personal to me. It's what I think of that person, literally in that moment, that I feel for them, that I choose a song. It has nothing to do about getting people to watch the show or nothing like that. It's what I think about them. Now I just let my secret out. Everybody's gonna know
you
that.
get it right. You
So
get it
if
right.
I pick a song for you, trust me, I didn't just pick it. And if I give it to other people, it's because you're all on the show at the same time. So anyhow, thank you for saying that. Navigating someone who feels that they want closure, they can't figure out how to be unstuck. What you gonna do for them? You're gonna design something for them, my friend, aren't you?
I work with people that have gone through divorce, separation, who are, going from being stuck to needing clarification, intention, and obviously they want confidence in their lives. So I help them design their lives, and I am at Paula Seligman Coaching. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm working on a podcast called I Married a Lemon, because I could be someone's lemon too, And so, never lose your sense of humor, by the way, because humor can get between dancing and laughing. I mean, those are
speaking my language. Now you're speaking my language.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You will always be a lime to me. You will always be a lime. Never a lemon. Never a lemon. Flora, before I close the show, speak your mind and how you can help people, if not necessarily what our main subject is, divorce. I think you have a dating type of a thing you have going on there as matchmaker of the universe or something.
I am actually also a matchmaker, oddly enough.
I knew it. That's why I stuck it in there. I saw some of your earlier work.
I work for a company. I work for a wonderful company called 3 Day Rule, and we represent 12 to 15 cities all over the country.
Millionaires. Go on and tell them the truth. Really good.
No, but it's a really I've worked for other companies, and this is by far the best company I've worked for, and I love it, and I love the work because also it keeps me in what I love to talk about, right, all day and all night long, dating and relationships. But separate from that, I'm the founder of Redo Love. You can find me at www.redo.love, and .love is the extension. I'm also on Instagram at redo.love, and I do have a program called Finding the One, and secret, I'll tell you now, is that you are the one. And when you find yourself, everything you want comes to you. So really my group focuses, the course in my group focuses on really getting people to find themselves, trust themselves, and be intentional about their approach to dating and relationships.
I believe that at some point you're going to have to expand on "You're the One" when we do number 2 and 3. Lila, before we go, if you were able to say some points you want to highlight in episode number 2, give me 1 or 2 things you want to bring to attention that was not touched on today.
One of the things is finding the gift in the darkness. And I think that the things that you go through, there's always a gift and you don't see it right away.
Good point.
And believing in that. And I think that, I would like to go into deeper thought around.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Paula?
Yeah, you know what? I love that too. And it's, again, about opportunities because, you talk about feelings and about being stuck and about how to get through it, but how to start. Now we've got to, seek the vision and be able to create it in our minds so that we can go after it and create that that beautiful life that there is there is life after divorce, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard some of the things you ladies were talking about while I was getting ready over here, and curling my hair and getting everything ready so I could be on the show, get my makeup on and put my girdle on. But what I was gonna say is, Paula, you just like designing stuff, don't you? You do. She's a visionary. She took what you just said, Lila, and she went this whole little visionary. It just, whatever somebody says, she sees it, she envisions it, and like, okay, move that couch over there. No, we need this plant over here. And it's, no, your life needs to be this way. It's like Lila could just say something, and then Paula will I want to make it happen, and then here comes Flora to come in and go like, no, this is not balanced properly now. We need to understand why the plant needs to move over 3 inches. I'm just messing with all three of you.
Do you know me? Like really know me? Because it's true.
I have watched that bookcase behind you for a while. I learn a lot by observing things.
Compared to mine.
Listen, first of all, you have plants that are still alive. That should not be a discussion. I'm with Flora right now.
Real, all of
in my house, we, if you watched any of our episodes, a lot of things we do on purpose to look low budget and watch things change. All of our plants are like dying. We spent so much money. It's a long story. All right, fake plants for 2022. We have to tell everyone here, please make sure you support Lila, Paula, and Flora on their pages. Why? Because I said so. I know YouTube people are not used to that. My Instagram family, they take the abuse. I'm telling you people, you need to reach out to them if you need some support, you need some direction, you need some designing, you need some transition, but more importantly, if you need to attach to who you really are, connect with each one of them. This has been a true pleasure of mine. This week technically ends on a Friday. Weekend begins. Tomorrow is my last day of doing shows for 2021. We will have 4 live shows starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, California time, and ending at 7 p.m. Tomorrow night on various subjects. But right now, I wanted to end my Friday with all of you here. There was nobody else, as I've been trying to tell everybody, there was nobody else I wanted to be here today, but the 3 of you with me to end Friday before I go watch the Laker game. So I just want you to, had to throw that in there, California thing. So I appreciate each one of you. Now, Flora has been back to do a show with me on YouTube. I wanted her to do a show. She did it. You two cannot run from me in 2022. I will hound you down and have you come back individually and do a show with me.
We're not running.
Before I get into the second week of my 3rd season. My daughters and I, and that season will start in March. So we'll talk in between now and then. We'll do this again, of course, a couple of times, but I want to do individual shows with both of you. And maybe at some point, we'll be able to actually meet in person. Maybe I'll get on a plane and go visit the rest of you. It really depends on my ankle bracelet. But what I was going to say is, I'm just joking. I don't have that. I shouldn't even said that. That's a bad joke.
I know. It's inappropriate.
It's highly inappropriate. Oh, wait, that's me. Anyhow, thank you very much. This has been fun. Any last parting words? Real quick.
I'll just go on and say it was such a pleasure, and you are amazing. You are amazing. You are just like such a great guy.
Lila
taught me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Take those compliments. Remember.
Yes. No, you did.
I was gonna say this is my last thing. I really want, and we can touch point on it.
Okay.
I got myself a
awesome.
Lila.
Oh.
And in this is all the compliments that people give me that I can
okay, that's the best.
And I put it in here and I keep it so that I can look at it because honestly we don't remember.
That is the best.
So
I love that. I'm so good at
all of you guys to do this.
No, wait. I am for one. And the other thing is my daughter's going to know they're going to see this. I'm going to get them a gift. That's the gift I want to get them. That is so true. And my father used to say, hey, look, if somebody gives you a compliment, don't brush it off. Take it. Because in a few seconds, somebody's going to tell you they hate you.
Yeah.
So you better take it.
Yeah, you got to balance your life out.
I like that.
All you need to do is drive in LA and it's enough to kill your ego, okay?
I'm with you on that.
This is what I started because I was like, I'm going to LA. Forget about it.
I truly, when I tell people I love them, I truly mean that. My daughters know that when I say that. Everyone that has been on my shows, you ladies as well, It's individuals I would love to welcome into our home, into my studio, into my home. So I think highly of each and every one of you. And remember, if you listen back to any music I played for you, please listen to the whole song. There's parts of it that I'm dedicating to you. Now that secret is out, I've never. I thank you. I thank you all. Paxton out. That's it. Narc Abuse TV.
Thanks, guys.
Love you guys. Have fun.
Great.
Take care of your
Thank
children,
you.
by the way,
Lovely.
and congratulations to your son. I'm
you.
sorry, Flora. Bye bye. We love you guys. We'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.